Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm your host, Dr. Haider Shah. On behalf of Calvas, I would like to welcome all of you to this webinar. Thank you very much for joining us. Today we have another very interesting topic, and I'm really honored to welcome and introduce our distinguished guest speaker who is going to talk about how to publish in high impact journals. Publication research in high impact journal is crucial for advancing the academic careers as it can lead to a greater recognition, funding opportunities, and collaboration. However, the process of publication in these journals can be highly competitive and challenging. It requires researchers to have deep understanding of the standards, expectation, and best practices for manuscript submission and review. So therefore, it requires mastering the skills and strategies for publishing in high impact journals, which is very essential for the researcher. So indeed, a very interesting topic. I'm sure you will get a lot of new insights and a suggestion by our expert because we have an expert with us in today this session. So stay tuned because amazing stuff are coming ahead in this session. So before we start, I would like to thank Kalwas for arranging such enlightening sessions, for their support and providing us such a wonderful platform. The aim of Kalwas is to give you the opportunity to connect and interact with world-renowned speakers, academic leaders, teachers, authors, researchers, experts, professionals, and businessmen to learn from their experiences, recommendations, suggestions, and tips which will create an impact and will enable you to learn and develop yourself in order to grow and transform individually, as well as to contribute to the world in a positive way. As our slogan is come, learn, and share knowledge. So today we have an amazing person as guest. He is internationally known and recognized speaker. He is a great human being who is always ready to contribute to the world by different ways, and we always see him on different platform contributing to the world. So let me introduce him formally. He is an assistant professor in computer science at the British University in Dubai, UAE. He received his PhD degree in computer science from the University Malaysia, Penang, and the MSc degree in informatics from the British University in Dubai with distinction, the BSc degree in computer science from the Brunei University College with honors. He is among the top 2% scientists in the world, according to the reports published by the Stanford University in October 2020, October 2021, and October 2022. He received several international and national awards for research excellence. He has published over 120 plus research articles, and his main contribution have appeared in highly reputed journals such as International Journal of Information Management, Computers and Evaluation, Education, Computer in Human Behavior, Telematics and Informatics, the IEEE Transaction on Engineering Management, Technology in Society, Journal of Enterprise Information Management, Interactive Learning Environment, International Journal of Human Computer Interaction, Journal of Educational Computing Research and Education in Information Technologies, among many others. Most of his publications were indexed under the ISI Web of Science and Scopus. In addition to that, his publication received over 7,600 plus citation within H index of 49. He has edited a number of books published by Springer. His current research interests include human computer interaction, knowledge management, educational technology, and artificial intelligence. Last but not the least, he's a wonderful speaker, author, teacher, researcher, professional, and above everything, a great human being. So please help me in welcoming our guest, Dr. Mostafa Al-Emran. Welcome to the Calvas platform, and thank you very much for joining us, Prof.
Thank you, Dr. Haider. Thank you for the introduction and thank you for the invitation as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, and it's really pleasure to have you with us because we have been watching you while contributing to the field and world. The way you are doing is fantastic, and your citation speaks for itself, and your publication. So we are very curious to know your strategies and tips for the how to publish in high impact journal. And our audience are also curious to know about so many things, and we will be having a valuable information and insights from you in this session. So over to you, Prof. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so let's start our presentation today. It's as Dr. Haider mentioned, it's about how to publish in high impact factor journals. It's a topic of interest for many researchers, for those who would like to publish in impact factor journals, because it's a challenging process. It was a challenging process for me also at the old times. It's still, I will show you a number of strategies, a number of some tricks, some tips for avoiding rejections, but we are still receiving rejections because these journals is there is actually, I can say, there is no straightforward way to deal with them, but there are strategies that we need to keep ourselves on the right track to make sure that our submissions will be accepted in these journals. At least it will pass the editor and it will be sent for review. This is the challenging part that we are always suffering. I will share my experience with you today, and I hope that you will get benefit of that as well. So, as we know that we hear that someone has published like 30 articles a year, 50 articles a year, or someone has published 200 articles a year, and at the same time, number of papers published daily on daily basis. There are hundreds of papers are published, but the bigger question is that where are these articles indexed, and at the same time by whom it is published? This is the very important two questions that we need to ask ourselves about. Where are these articles indexed and where they are published? When we say indexed, I will show you the different types of indices that are available. And when we say published, whether these are journal articles, book chapters, conferences, books, edited books, what etc. The main important thing for in publications is how to measure the impact of the publication itself. There are papers with very low impact. When we suppose you spend a lot of time on writing the article, but by the end of the day you will receive zero citations for that paper. There are papers that you will actually doesn't take a lot of time from the author, but it's still receiving a lot of citations. And both scenarios happened with me. I have papers that I spent a lot of efforts, but I didn't receive the sufficient number of citations that was expected for these papers. At the same time, I wrote papers within 3 to 4 days. Then I received more than 100 citations for that papers, and still those papers didn't publish in journals. It is just published as book chapters. While those are published in a Q1 journals in the Web of Science, I spent a lot of time, efforts, revision here and there, but I didn't receive like 30 citations. So this is very important, measuring the impact of our research. We will discuss this today in this presentation. There are different key metrics when we say the index. Where are the papers indexed? The first point that I discussed in my question, where are these papers indexed? There are differences in these indices, or we can say index metrics. One of them is the Clarivate, which it's very famous when we say ISI Web of Science. It is the Clarivate, previously non-Thomson Reuters of Web of Science. Then it is purchased by Clarivate Incorporation, another company that purchased the Web of Science from Thomson Reuters, which is, we hear about the terminology Web of Science or the terminology ISI, or when you say papers with impact factor. This is all belong to the journals that are indexed in the Clarivate. Scopus is another famous index that is very familiar or popular among many universities. And now we have, like, even our students, very young students, master students, PhD students, started to say, is this index in Scopus? Is this index in Scopus? So it becomes a very popular database in academia. Then we have CIMAGO. It is also, it's integrated with the Scopus. The difference is that the Scopus shows the site score. The CIMAGO shows the quartile for for the journals or there are some conferences as well. Some book series also are available in CMONC. It shows the quartile from Q1 to Q4. DBLB, this is another index that is very famous in Europe, specifically in Germany and Austria. EBSCO, I also guess you are familiar with EBSCO because most of the libraries around the world are subscribed with EBSCO. Google Scholar, of course, all of us know the Google Scholar. Google Scholar brings everything together, whether it's Web of Science, it's Scopus, everything. Even if you put your paper on ResearchGate, it will bring that paper and put it on Google Scholar. And ERIC, also it's also another index. ERIC is specifically for humanities and social sciences, specifically for the education field, this database. INSPIC is also another. So there are different indices. There are other metrics that are considered in other schools. For example, the ABS system. The ABS system is a system recognized by the business school in the UK, and it becomes very famous across the business schools across the world. So people are not only interested in the impact factor, but they are also interested whether it's indexed in the ABS or not. And they have also a system like this A star, A star, 3 star, whatever. There is another system by Australia. It is the ABDC. It is also belonging to the business school. Actually, myself, I'm not too much interested in these two indices because my domain is computer science, specifically related to information systems. So our journals, the engineering, computer science, the education, as I mentioned, that these two indices are much related to the business school. Any other domains, their journals are taking a very weak weight in these two indices. That's why actually we are focusing on the Web of Science only. And the Web of Science, it's we can say anything in the Web of Science is available in all the other indices. Everything in the Web of Science is available in the ABS and ABDC. This is the good news, and that this is our main concern for today's presentation. I will show you in the Web of Science there are different indices. These indices that have the impact factor, which is our main topic for today. Before we move to that, we want to understand what is the ISI. When we say ISI Web of Science, ISI stands for Institute for Scientific Information, and it was founded by Eugene Garfield in 1960. So it's something not new. It's something about I think 60 years back. So it's something not new. It's already old. It was part of Thomson Reuters company in the US, and then it was owned by Clarivate Analytics around 4 or 5 years ago. There are top ISI indices. When we say it has an impact factor, the four famous one are the ones that are in the box. The Science Citation Index, Science Citation Index Expanded, Social Science Citation Index, and Arts and Humanities Citation Index. These four components have impact factor. The other two, these are, for example, the Emerging Sources Citation Index. These are journals that are selected by the Web of Science, but still didn't assign an impact factor. So they are, we can say, a candidate for getting the impact factor in the next few years, maybe in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. It depends on how the journal performs in dealing with their publications, the citations that they are receiving, and so on. And there is another index, which is the Conference Proceeding Citation Index Science. This index very rarely of the conferences that are very highly reputed in the domain. The highly reputed conferences in the domain, only those conferences are taken by this index. Mostly the IEEE conferences, I cannot say all of them, but I can say most of them are indexed in the CPCI. Very few conferences that are published by Springer, few of them are also considered in the CPCI. So This is a very challenging one, but still the last two doesn't have an impact factor, but your work will be indexed in the Web of Science. So anyone who would search for articles and your article appear, even if it's emerging or if it's conference proceeding, it will appear there, and they have the ability to download it and work on it. But the first four, these are the most important one that we are actually focusing on in our research. Those have impact factor. We can see that science citation index, the first two, science citation index and science citation index expanded, these are mainly related to the engineering, IT, scientific, the science domains. The social sciences citation index and the arts. Social sciences is very clear. It's for social sciences studies. Arts and humanities, those for education, humanities, arts, etc. There are also a number of journals. Still, like even in computer science, information systems, we have some journals in social sciences. We also have some journals in arts and the humanities. These are the interdisciplinary research. If it's a pure research, we can find them in each of these four categories. Now, what is an impact factor? What does it mean? Impact factor, it's actually the number of citations in the last 2 years divided by the number of publications in these 2 years. So here, for example, this is an example for the impact factor of Nature journal in 2017. And we can see that the impact factor is calculated by summating the number of citations in 2016 and 15 divided by number of publications in these 2 years. So now, today we are in 2023. The latest impact factor that are available is the one released last year in June, by the end of June, beginning of July 2022, which was based on the citations and publications in the previous 2 years, which is 2021. So our next release for the citations will be in June, end of June or beginning of July this year, 2023. It will be for 2022. So it is always 1 year ahead, and it's calculated by taking the average number of citations in the previous 2 years divided by the number of publications. Maybe some of you will say, why do you explain these equations for us? It's important because in the next few slides I will discuss what the editors and reviewers are looking for. And when we say like citations impact factor, you will be familiar with that. How to increase the impact of the journal by increasing the number of citations. This is one of the issues that the editors are looking for and reviewers. So what makes an impact factor journal? Why this journal is different from, these journals are different from the other journals? There is a very strict review process. It's not an easy process. One of the editors says that I receive about 30-40 articles in a day, 30 to 40 manuscript submissions a day. He said, while taking my cup of coffee, I'm taking only one. Within 1 hour, he decides whether he will take only one out of 30-40 submissions a day. Only one will be sent for review. It will not be accepted. It will be sent for review. So just imagine there is about, when we say one in a day, per the year, maybe we have about 365. Then the journal will accept, after a very strict review process, they will accept maybe 100, 150. Those are the top 10% in the Web of Science. Their acceptance rate is very low. They are accepting 70, 80 submissions a year out of 5,000, 6,000 submissions in a year. Usually there is like 2 to 4 reviewers for each manuscript submission. For every submission, there is at least 2 to 4 reviewers. And in one of my papers, honestly, I received 8 reviewers. The comments that I received for the paper, it was about 24 pages of comments, while the paper was 20 pages. I received 24 pages of comments. Okay, it was after a very lengthy battle with the reviewers. Then the paper accepted after 2 rounds, from major to minor to minor. Then we got the paper accepted. This was around 4 years back. Referees from the highest level of publishers in the field or subfield. Usually in those journals, the editors are very keen to select the very reputed scholars in the domain, because by the end of the day, they want to publish very high quality work. And this high quality work should be evaluated by high quality people to ensure that the content is up to the standards of the journal. Acceptance rate actually is less than 20%. This is for, like you can say, journals that are Q2, Q3, Q4. But Q1 journals, this rate is below the 20%, sorry. And in some journals, honestly, it is below 2%. The acceptance rate is below 2%. So it's very challenging. It's really so challenging to get our paper published, specifically in the first, or we can say the top 10% of the Q1 journals. Articles published tend to be highly cited in the field. This is what the editors also are looking for. Is this article going to be cited or not? If it's not going, why I have given the formula or the equations in the previous few slides, because the impact factor is increased by increasing the citations. So they want to see whether your article is going to be cited or not. If it's not going to be cited, they will not waste the reviewer's time, their time, your time, for going through a very lengthy review process. Then it might be rejected or accepted. They are looking for something up to the standards, something very trendy that it can receive citations. So for example, today, when we see papers, for example, about the metaverse, papers about ChatGPT, something very new. So now this is the trendy applications. So now let's think, each of us, how to employ this trendy application in our domain. Each one from his own perspective. From the agriculture, how we can benefit of this. From the business side, how we can benefit of this. From a computer science, we can think about it in something. From the engineering side. So each of us can contribute to any of the emerging technologies, emerging topics, emerging phenomenon, how we can employ these into our research. So these papers will receive the attention of the editor. When you work on something very trendy, it will immediately catch up the editor attention, and at the same time, it will be highly cited because there is no sufficient literature on it, on this material. So your paper will be one of the first that will get the early citations in this field. Articles published should define the most original and important contributions in the field or subfield. So your article is also should add some contribution. It's not contribution to the application itself. It might be a theoretical contribution. It might be methodological contribution as well. This is also important in addition to the application side. Now, with all of these difficulties, also some of the audience would say, so why do we bother ourselves to publish in these journals? There are journals we can submit our paper today and receive the acceptance by email tomorrow. We can receive the acceptance. Why do we bother ourselves and go for this very strict process? No, I can say it's very important. Why? One of the important points is that you will be recognized in your field or in your subfield of research. When you publish in a journal article for a specific topic, and this paper will get a lot of citations, you will be recognized in this domain. You will be reputed. You will get the respect of others. You will be invited to deliver workshops, to deliver talks. This you will get the recognition while publishing in these journals. Other point is that in many reputed research institutions, this is a requirement for promotion. Specifically, I'm talking about the faculty members. In research-based institutions, you will not be promoted if you just publish a regular journal article. Usually, those institutions are looking for whether your paper will have it is indexed in the Web of Science or not. What is the impact factor? And the high rank of these institutions, they will squeeze the requirements for the faculty members. It's a requirement for graduation for again, this is in many research-based institutions. It's a requirement for graduation for PhD students, and in some institutions, if you receive a research fund, it's also a requirement for master's students as well. If you have a research fund by your supervisor, one of the requirements is to publish also one ISI paper. It's a requirement for international institutional ranking. That's why you can see the top universities that are currently booming in the ranking. Just have a look at their scholars, the faculty members, what they are publishing. They are publishing all ISI journals, because the points that will be taken in terms of ranking, the points will be much more than the other indices. Also, it's a requirement for when you build your profile with the good research publications and these standards. It's a requirement. You will be ready to be employed in many reputed universities, because it's a requirement. In many reputed universities, they will ask you whether how many papers did you publish, how many papers that you are the corresponding author for ISI Web of Science. These questions are very familiar in the interviews. Also, when you apply for a research fund, before any institution, when you apply for a research fund, they want to see your background. If you don't have like a reliable profile with reliable list of publications, they will say, why do I lose my money? I will pay for something that it will not be published. So it's when you have very good publications in the Web of Science and you apply for a research fund, you will easily get that one, because you know how to manage to publish in these journals. And to edit books with, if you wish to edit books, for example, with good publishers, highly reputed publishers like Springer, Emerald, Taylor and Francis, they want to see whether you have these publications or not, because at this point you are the editor who is going to review the work of other scholars. So you should reach at a certain level where you have the capability to review the articles in a way that it will keep them into the acceptable standards by the series. So here there are some issues that the reviewers and editors at the same time are looking for when you submit your article. The first point is the originality. How original is the topic to the journal? Is it something that you already found it in other papers and you just duplicated using other new data, new context? How original is the idea? Sound argument. Here we are talking about the problem statement. Is the problem you are discussing is sufficiently new, sufficiently novel to the problem? It comes from maybe application gap, it can be a theoretical gap, it can be methodological gap. There are different gaps. And the beautiful thing, if you manage to have the three gaps together, like you have application gap, theory gap, methodological gap, for sure your paper will be published in very top journal if you manage to have the three together. Relevance to and extension of existing knowledge. It should be something related. It means like when we say, for example, the metaverse, someone will say it's a totally new topic. No, it's not a new topic. We can say an extension of the internet. It's the new generation of the internet. So there is a background for the metaverse. There is something before. So any new idea, when you want to propose it, it should not come like suddenly. It should be based on something that is already there, and you either come up with something new because there are gaps in the original one, or you try to improve or extend the Something already exists. There are gaps. You want to extend it or improve it. So it should be relevant to something that is in the literature. Research methodology. There is something very important that the editors will check whether the methods are relevant to the research or not. Because in what I sometimes when we do, like for example, systematic reviews, I found like 4 or 5 studies, the methodology is different from the others. How comes? Because for example in this domain I know that the methodology can be 1 2 3. When I saw something new, I go and explore the article. I see how it is accepted by the journal because the methodology is not relevant to the topic itself. When for example you have this model, it should be analyzed using this method. Why it is analyzed in another or we can say irrelevant method. This is very important. Also the what they are looking for. Clarity, structure, quality of writing. The manuscript should be very clear, well structured, and the quality of writing. Those journals are very keen to see that your article is very well written in high standards of English in order to be accepted. Experiment results, are they reliable and valid? They see sometimes the editor not only look at the abstract, sometimes they, or most of the time, I can say they are looking for the introduction. They are looking for just quick skimming about the article. They will see what they are looking at certain points. Even when I am invited as a reviewer, when I accept the invitation and I start to review the article, before I start writing my report, I just have a quick look within 1 minute about the manuscript. Within 1 minute, I will decide whether this manuscript is going to be uh, maybe accepted with, of course, minor or major comments, or it will be rejected. Within 1 minute, I can decide this, and then I will start writing my report. Because I don't accept invitations only that are related to my domain. So because I don't want to waste my time, at the same time, I don't want to review something not relevant to my area, and I might provide irrelevant comments. So I only review the articles, manuscripts that are related to my domain. So within 1 minute, I can say that this manuscript can be accepted with, of course, either minor or major comments, but mainly it is major because those journals, we are squeezing the authors, just like they are squeezing us. So it's a mutual way. The idea is that by the end of the day, we want the article to be of high quality. It's not about squeezing the author. It's about like when I want, if I put myself as a reader and I want to read this article, I want to read it in the high standards. If I give this article to one of my PhD students, just take this article and read it. This is very reputed journal, and maybe he or she will find some mistakes. It's a shame to read mistakes in reputed journals. So I give the right to the reviewers when they provide very major comments. Sometimes the review will take more than 3 rounds, 4 rounds, 5 rounds until it will reach actually the acceptable level. Theoretical and practical implications. This is very important. What your study will add to the theory by the end, when you finalize everything, you wrote the results, discussion, what your theory will, your results will add to the theory. It means to the literature itself and to the practice. If someone in the industry will read your paper, will read the results, what he or she will get benefit from this is how it will affect the industry. Recency and relevance of references. This is very important. You need to make sure that your references are up to date. When we submit a manuscript today, make sure that you have references from 2022, 2023. Even if you have a manuscript, for example, I have a paper that we wrote it in 2019. Still, till today, it is not published. We are getting revisions, rejection, revision, rejection from 3 to 4 journals within 4 years. 4 years. And we are patient about that because we developed something new and we are waiting for that till it will be published. The idea is that when it is like from 2019 to till today, it's about 4 years. Each time we are submitting the paper to another journal or with another round, we are updating the references list to show that the paper is still recent, specifically the arguments stating that this is an original work, it's different from the previous work, this is still a gap. This needs to be supported with recent references and relevant. When we say relevant, it means they should be relevant to the work, because there are scenarios where the authors are citing irrelevant work to their manuscripts as well. Adherence to the editorial scope and objectives of the journal. Make sure you need, if you are not familiar, if this is your first time to submit to the journal, read the scope of the journal, read their objectives, and it's good, in addition to reading the scope and objectives, read whether search by keywords to see whether this journal has published a similar work to yours in the last 2 years or not. Because maybe you search for articles, the last time that the journal has published such type of articles, maybe 5 years or 10 years ago, then this journal is no longer interested in your work. Don't waste your time and submit to that journal. So if this is your first time to deal with the journal, if you have good experience with that, you can, of course, know the way how to deal with it. Is it going to be cited? This is the same question related to my previous discussion. Is this work is going to be cited? Is it because there are ideas that are very important, very critical, but very narrow. At the same time, very narrow. No one will cite them. No one will think about working in this. This work is not going to be cited. This work, you will waste your time. Okay, you work on something. It's good. It's new. There are no sufficient literature about it, but it's very narrow. It's not within the interest of the community. It's with only narrow or limited number of audience. So this paper will receive very limited number of citations. There are reasons for rejection in these journals. We will discuss the reasons and we will discuss the strategies to handle these reasons. Before we move to that, when we submit our paper for a journal, our manuscript will look like this beautiful car for us. When we submit the paper, we say we wrote very well article, very good piece of work, but if we were lucky enough, it will be sent for reviewers, and once we receive the decision from the editor, this is how actually our manuscript would look like after the revision, when you say very lengthy reports from the editors and from the reviewers. The reasons are maybe the issue is not important or not original. This is one of the main rejections. When you say issue is not important or not original, not important is something that will not get citations by the journal. At the same time, it's something that's already exhausted. It's a lot of work are there in the literature. Why do these journals care about publishing it again? Or not original, something it's already exhausted in the literature. That's why you can see in some publishers, they have, we can say, a sister journal. Actually, the main idea of the sister journal is the main journal still publishing the very original work. The sister journal with APC, those journals are interested in publishing the work that is already also, even if it is exhausted, they will accept that work. It will follow a steps until it will be accepted. But this work cannot be accepted in the main journal. This is the main difference. You can see these business models now is very common across many journals. Main journal and sister journal, or they can say companion journal. These are two together. The main one cannot accept something. They accept only original, novel ideas. The companion one, they accept This we can say the exhausted work, something that is already used a lot, a theory that has a lot of work, a lot of extensions, a lot of modifications. There is nothing new in it. They can still accept that one. But of course, there is also a standard for publication, like sound argument, problems are clear, objectives are clear, well methodology, well result, discussion, blah, blah, blah. The same issues, but the idea itself is already exhausted in the literature. Those journals can accept this work. There is another reason for rejection, which is out of scope. The paper is out of scope, not appropriate for a journal. This message, you will receive it a lot as a matter of rejection. It's not a matter of rejection because your manuscript is really out of scope. No, it's a message that is already there in the system. Like when you say decision on your manuscript, rejected. Thank you for submitting your manuscript to blah, blah, blah. After a thorough review, we found that your manuscript is not suitable to our audience, is out of scope, not appropriate for the journal scope, not appropriate for the journal objectives. This is the message that you will receive for a matter of rejection. You will be familiar with this message a lot, but it is written in different ways, as I mentioned. Either not appropriate, out of scope, not suitable for audience. But you will say, my work is, there are a lot of papers in the journal. In one of the papers, I cited about 15 articles of X journal. I would not mention the name of the journal. And I focused on the recent articles in the last 2 years. I built the hypothesis on these papers for the journal itself. I submitted the paper. I received a message immediately, an email on the next day. Your manuscript is not suitable to the journal, out of scope. Then I submitted the paper into another journal with very high impact. It's after a major revision, we got the paper accepted. It was a very high standard, but we aimed for the number one journal. Unfortunately, number one journal says that your manuscript is out of scope. While there are more than 15 citations in the paper to the journal, our hypotheses were built on these hypotheses that are published by publications in the journal. The journal, it says that your manuscript is out of scope. So this is one issue. Other issue is that you fail to format the paper according to the guidelines, maybe in terms of referencing style, maybe in terms of line spacing. You would say, why do they reject papers because of this thing? Because they are receiving a lot. They don't have time to contact you again, change the referencing style, change this and this. And when you receive the rejection, they will not say because of the format. They will say out of scope. They will link the rejection with the previous one. You will never receive a rejection because you fail to comply with the journal guidelines. They will say out of scope. But originally, it was because of the format. Maybe you didn't follow the referencing style well. At the same time, there are journals, and this comes by experience. There are journals, they don't care about the referencing style. Before the acceptance, they will enforce you to adjust everything according to their guideline. This is one type of journal. Some type of journals, no, they need everything as it's supposed to be, and you need to submit the paper according to the template, according to the template. Maybe line spacing, font, size, maybe the referencing style, etc. One point also is the poor structure of your paper. Your paper is poorly structured. Maybe there is, for example, your results are a part of the methodology. There is no results part. I found papers, they put related work and literature review together. So what's the difference between the two? It's not clear for the reviewer. There is, for example, discussion is not there. Maybe there is no conclusion. So there are this the poor structure also will weaken the value of the manuscript. Unclear hypothesis or research questions. You put a hypothesis that might not be measurable, or your research questions are not clear. This, if these are not clear, it means whatever you have built on them is vague, something not clear for the reviewer. Very old data, those who are taking, for example, data from repositories, something very old, like journals are not very much interested on that. Or you have collected your data maybe 5 6 years ago, and now with the pace of technologies, with the pace of like new trendy topics, these data are not much or no longer interested by the journals. The methods that you are using, maybe you are using very poor or weak methods that have been already exhausted before. Like you want to, for example, validate or to verify the strength of a new hypothesis, or we can say a new developed model, but you are using very old methods. You didn't use the new one. The new one that there is less amount of work on them, and the journals are eager to accept this work. This is also very important. Your sample is biased. For example, you have 200 females and you have 50 male. You cannot do a comparison between the gender wise here in this example, or here in this example like orange and apple. You cannot make a comparison if one of the samples is much more than the other sample, because of course there will be a bias in the results. The statistics, maybe I found during the review that in the results everything is okay, but in the result the statistics are inappropriate. They generate the statistics in an inappropriate way, so the reviewer will catch you if he's expert in that domain. Some statistics are incorrect, incorrect, or doesn't follow the standards of appropriate statistics. The results discussion is not convincing. Many journals are very much keen about the discussion section part of your manuscript. Discussion section is very important because you need to discuss the results. Because you get the results, what does these results mean? You need to compare these results against the literature to show agreement or disagreement with the literature, and at the same time, you need to provide your interpretation. Why it is in agreement with the literature, why it is in disagreement with the literature. In both scenarios, you need to provide your own interpretation as a researcher, and you need to link that with the methodology part of your work. Maybe it is in agreement due to certain issues because of your methodology. Maybe it is in disagreement at the same time because of your methodology, maybe because of the sample, maybe because of the infrastructure, maybe because of the culture. There are different factors that should be considered while discussing the results. So it is very important. Also, language is very important. You need to make sure that your work is, if the language, if it's not like you are not, capable enough of writing this work, make sure that it would be proofread by someone who had good expertise in writing, or it should be proofread by native speakers. Outdated references, like you might get rejection for sure because of the outdated references. Your references are outdated. And I rejected many papers myself for many authors because of this issue. Like I'm reviewing a paper today, I found the latest reference is 2018. So this paper is extremely old because the latest reference it was in 2018. Duplicate publications. You are duplicate someone work exactly with just changing the data. That's it. And then you want to submit to someone else. You will be lucky if the authors who wrote the paper, or the some readers who cite the paper, there will be they will be the reviewers of this work. So they will catch you. And it happened with me. It happened with me, like one has duplicated one of my work, and he was not lucky enough that I was the reviewer. He sent it to the same journal that I got my paper published. So he duplicated a paper from a journal and he submitted to the same journal. And the author of that paper was the reviewer for him. So it was then the journal immediately, of course, after writing my report, the journal immediately rejected the paper and take their action, because it was something, it was exactly the same, even the references. It was a comparative study that he or she just changed the name of the countries in the paper and kept everything the same. Everything the same, even the references. He or she didn't change anything in the paper. So these are considered duplicate publications. Again, the matter of that, you should not get a paper exactly the same. Maybe you have different results, different data. These papers considered reinventing the wheel. These papers will not be accepted in these journals. And plagiarism is, even if your work, you should not use it as is. You need to paraphrase that work, provide the appropriate citation for it. In all cases, you need to do the paraphrasing, and you need to provide the appropriate citation, even if it's your work. Now, there is something is we need to when we submit, because as I mentioned, it's when you say high impact factor journals, these are of course the Q1 in the Q1 is the high impact one, and then Q2, Q3, Q4. You need to decide the purpose of your submission. If you aim very high, when you say top 10% of the list, or Q1, and you are still like this is your first experience, you should expect more rejections. You should be familiar with that. Very long review process. There are papers that takes 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, and there are papers that are also take, for example, 3 months, 4 months. The less period of time that was taken from me in publishing in these journals, it was 3 months. I was very lucky for these journals. Sorry, 2 months, about 2 months and a half. 2 months and a half, I was very lucky that the editor likes the paper, put it out for review. Reviewers were also like responding very well, and within 1 month, we received the comments. We did the revision, and then it was accepted. So we were lucky to get the entire process within 2 months and a half. That was the less amount of time. I have papers that have taken more than a year, and I have seen papers in the literature that are taking 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. So, and also you should expect less help from reviewers and editors. They will be very tough with you, and very strict comments. And if you can see in this picture, this is you are the author, the first one on the left side, and there are many people. They want to. It's not about destruction. It's about filtering your work to reach the high standards. So there are some strategies for increasing the chances to publish in these journals. First of them is you need to follow the guidelines, the author guidelines, read the scope, paper type, word length, referencing style. Paper type is very important because some journals, for example, don't accept review articles. They accept only research articles. So check this one. Some journals, they don't, for example, many journals, they don't accept opinion papers. At the same time, there are journals only for review studies, like artificial intelligence review, ACM computing surveys, IEEE tutorial, for example. These journals accept only review studies. They don't accept research articles. So read the paper type, and also check the word length as well. Because there are some journals, for example, they said research articles, 8,000 words, review studies, 10,000 words. You should not go beyond this beyond this limit. Another point is that I'm always saying this. It's your abstract is your trailer, your movie trailer. Before you go to when you see a new movie is launched for you, you check the trailer. You see in the cinema that there is a new movie is launched. Before you go and purchase the ticket, we usually see the trailer on YouTube to see whether it's interesting to match our flavors or not. And then we will decide whether to go for the movie or not. This is the same issue. That the abstract is the way that you are selling your article. The abstract is the way that will attract the editor to go in the paper and send it out for review or will reject the paper. Even if the paper is going to be accepted, your abstract is still very important because there are countries that they don't have subscription for libraries. And those people can go and purchase the article from the publisher. If your abstract is appealing to them, they will go and purchase the article. So the abstract is, we can say, it's a very good piece of the manuscript of the paper that will attract the editor, reviewers, and even your readers later on once the paper is published. Other point is that the introduction section, remember that you should indicate the research gap very clear and in the introduction section and how to deal with that in your work. Usually I prefer myself to write the introduction in a way that the first paragraph will be a general background about the topic. The second paragraph narrowing down the topic. It will go to the how this topic is aligned with this application, with this. You go specifically into the application to the sector that you are trying to investigate. And then in the third paragraph, you will start explaining the research gaps in this specific area. What are the research gaps in this specific area? From these research gaps, of course, everything should be, any of the claims should be supported with references and should be supported with recent references, not even references. Recent references is very important. And then after you narrowing down to the research gap, then you will start providing your objective. So these are the main gaps. This is the main objective. And this is how your introduction would look like. It would be about maybe 2 pages, 1 page and a half. It depends on the topic, nature of the study. Research implication is your product. At the end of writing the manuscript, you need to provide the theoretical contributions and the practical implications of your study. What your study will add to the literature, to the theory, and what it will add to the industry. This is one of the tricks that you need to cite at least 5 to 10 references from the targeted journal. It really adds value in many journals to show that your work is relevant to this journal because you already cited some of their work. Many editors, if they don't find citations in your manuscript, they will reject the paper and they will say it's out of scope. Check the plagiarism before submission. Many journals are very keen about this, and even if they don't look at it at the beginning, when it comes to the acceptance publication stage, they will catch you at that stage. So it's very important. Make sure that the plagiarism score is within the acceptable amount of the journal. This is one of the issues that actually I did at the beginning in the old times. I remember that I wrote my first conference paper in September 2013, and it got published in February or March 2014. So that was my, you can say, about 9 years and a half. It's an extensive experience with very hard work. Actually, and at the first 4 or 5 years of this journey, I was consulting people, those who have, those are the big names in the domain. I consulted them for reviewing and co-authoring the work with me. Actually, they added a lot to my experience at the beginning, providing their comments. It was very useful. How this is written in this way, how this is written in this way. This should not be written in this way. There should be references here. Needs more justification. Remove this section, add this section, add a paragraph here, remove this paragraph. So actually, I learned a lot from them during my first 4 or 5 years, and I would like to thank all of them, those who co-authored the work with me at the beginning. So this is very important for those who still at their early stages. It's advisable that they work with uh, the well-reputed scholars in their domain, those who have good experience in publishing in these journals, because they know, those people know where to submit the work. This work can fit this journal, doesn't fit this journal. You can submit here, you don't submit here, it will be cited here, not cited here. Those people know how to deal with these issues. One of the important points that you can also look for special issues in top journals and make them a target for your submission. Special issues. This you first of all, your topic, you will work on a topic that is very new. Even it will not be accepted in this journal, it will be accepted in other journals, because these special issues usually discussing something very novel. There is very few and limited amount of literature about it, or limited amount of publications in the literature about it. So take them as, I can say, a venue to submit your work. Look for these special issues. Look at the top journals and see whether they have special issues or not. Work on these special issues. You will have like 5 months, 6 months, 1 year. Submit to them. If your work, if they like your work, of course you will move with them in different rounds of revision until your work is accepted. Even if it's rejected, again, it will be a good piece for other journals because it's something new. The way of writing, I also put it here for you. Like, for example, you need to writing on your manuscript. Some people will say, I will start with the introduction, I will start with the results, I will start with the methodology, some people, they start with the abstract. Still, there is nothing at hand. No problem, no methodology, no results, they start writing the abstract. So the good way, which I find it very feasible, is start with the literature review, because in the literature review, you'll identify the gaps. If you have sufficient expertise of the literature, you know what is in the literature, then you can play with these sections the way that you like. It's not a rule. It's not a rule. It's just a matter of guideline. If you don't know from where to start, if you know like what are the gaps in the literature, you can jump to the methodology and results. Then you can write this part again. Sorry, at the end. Then your methodology will be written, then the results, discussion, research implications, limitations, the future research, conclusion, and then you will start writing your discussion. It's always advisable that introduction will be written at the end, because once you have everything is completed, the full picture is very clear to the author. He or she now knows what to write in the introduction. It will be very clear. The research gaps, specifically the last paragraph that I mentioned, the last part of the introduction, it will be very clear to how the author will align it specifically with the methodology and results. Then you will put your title and keywords. You would say, I will start writing the article without having any title at the beginning. No, of course you will have a tentative title when planning your manuscript, but at the end you will finalize your title and keywords. Title and keywords are linked to each other. So the main keywords in the title should be the main keywords in your keywords list. And your abstract will be the last part. It's the complete picture, the summary of your work. So this is the way of writing. And here I also would like to share some personal insights with you from my research experience during the last years. Actually, it is research is considered a game and fun, but not the literal meaning of the game itself. It's a game and fun if you have passion, if certain factors are there. If you have the passion in research, so when I say if you have passion, you should not consider it as a way for promotion. There are faculty members who just want to get promoted and then they will leave everything. This research here is something like considered mandatory. You are doing this because to get your promotion, or you are doing this because you want to graduate as a PhD student. You should have the passion for that. Then it become a game. It become a game because you understand everything in your domain, and it become a fun when you are publishing in these good journals. You can see that your impact is increasing, your recognition is increasing, your citations are increasing. These are all this will be a fun. It becomes a matter of game. The other factor is the reading, the learning. Learning is very important. Keep learning. Some people, when they got their PhD, they saw, okay, my knowledge is fulfilled. Now, no need to read, no need to do a research. Now it's time to rest. It's personally, I don't agree with this perspective, because learning never ends. Even if you are going to be full professor, whatever the level that you have, whatever the position that you have, learning never ends. Learning, it can be learning in new methodologies in your domain and learning new knowledge. And this comes again from reading. I'm always saying reading, reading, reading. Very important. You cannot publish in these journals if you don't know what they want. How do you know what they want? Read their latest articles. Read what these journals are currently focusing on. Maybe you published in a journal 5 years ago, but you cannot manage to publish another article with them today, because their perspective has totally changed during the last 4 or 5 years. So reading is very important to see what the journals are currently focusing on, what they are looking for, what are the methodologies that they are considering, what are the theories that they are considering. These things are very important to see whether you are in the same standard of the journal or not. And the other factor for making this game feasible or possible is the importance of the research group. Research group is very important. Having a good and reliable research group, it will be very important for making this research journey possible. Because without having a good research group, it would take time from you to write a complete study. It would take time for publishing a lot of papers in a year. Having a good research group is you will reduce the effort of each member in the group, plus generating new ideas. When you meet your research group in a meeting, you can generate new ideas, new methodologies, sharing some mutual interest between the others. Someone will raise one issue, the other will raise another issue, then maybe new ideas can be immersed together. Plus, it's reducing the effort of a single author in a study. Don't put all your eggs in the same basket. What does it mean? There are some people who say that I wrote 2 articles and I'm still waiting for them. So if you are waiting for a promotion, or if you are waiting for a graduation, of course, maybe you will not be lucky enough to get these 2 papers published. As I mentioned, I have papers since 2019. Till today, it's not published. We are still struggling with the authors, with the reviewers. 1 round, 2 rounds, rejection, 1 round, 2 rounds, etc. So work on different papers at the same time. This would be a good way. Having papers in the pipeline, this would be a good way of managing your papers. You will receive an acceptance today. Tomorrow you will have rejection. After tomorrow you will have revision, and so on. Rejection, acceptance, revision. You have many papers in the pipeline, so you don't care whether the paper even it takes 1 year, 2 years. You don't care about that point because you have many papers in the pipeline. Editors and reviewers, remember that they are all busy scientists, so make things easy to save their time. By complying with all the guidelines that I mentioned, this will make the work of the editor and reviewer easy. Uh, Usually, what we do, like in with my research group, at the end, when the Clarvit or the Web of Science generate the list of the new impact factor in June, at the end of June, beginning of July, we prepare a list of the top journals. We have the list of the top journals, and we will start taking them as target for the new year. This is very important. So you can see which journals their impact has increased, which journals their impact has decreased. And in this case, you can target these journals in the way that you can see it's possible. Also, collaboration with authors from other fields can enable the generation of new methods and ideas. Like working with during the COVID-19, we work with people from medicine. We have taken some patients' data sets from them, and then we for COVID-19, and then we apply some, for example, machine learning algorithms on these data sets. And now we have a collaboration between computer science people with medicine people. We come up with the new ideas. This is also very important. I have co-authors from the marketing domain, management domain, from the education domain. We can collaborate together with something very similar to each other, similar to the research interest of each other. And don't be discouraged. It's a paper usually take 2 to 4 revisions before final acceptance. This is something very usual. Don't also be discouraged if your paper rejected maybe 10 times. I have one of the paper rejected by the editors more than 10 times. And at submission number 13 or 14th, it got accepted. So it takes about 2 years. So don't be discouraged for this. This is a normal process. And at the end, I would say that nobody is perfect. Everybody sweats. I'm still getting rejections, by the way. At the same time, I'm getting acceptance, revisions, but still we have rejections. But by taking these recommendations all together, we are trying to reduce the number of rejections. If you can see yourself at a stage where you submit an article today and it is sent for reviewers, it means you are on the right track. This is, I mean, it's a good way of seeing the light, the correct light in your research journey. And now I would like to say again thank you to Dr. Haider for this invitation. And it's time I will be very happy to have to receive any questions from the audience. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much, Prof. Mustafa. Really, that was a wonderful session with you because you exchanged a wonderful content and you explained very well the important points. And I love the idea that you started it with the ISI top indexes first, then you tried to educate our audience, particularly the people who are the new researcher and they are trying to publish in the high impact journal. First, they try to understand what is impact factor, and very nicely you have showed us the formula that how do the journals they calculate the impact factor, and then what is the real procedure for it. You describe it in a wonderful way, right from the introduction to the end. You were explaining each and every point with a wonderful illustration that in introduction, and I love the way you just described your own wonderful introduction, that how do you design your first paragraph, the second paragraph, the third, and the fourth, in which you just describe at the fourth paragraph the objectives of the research paper, that what you are trying to achieve. And I love the way you explain the research questions and hypothesis, whether it has been written clearly or not, and whether it is convincing to the reviewers and editors or not. And again, the very important aspect of the methodology, the methods, whether they are appropriate or not. Similarly, the statistics, the different analysis we use. And I love your one of your phrase that your implication is your product, which you are going to sell it. Very nice phrase you have given in the presentation. And I love your analogy of the car as well, the image of car you just mentioned, that when we prepare the manuscript, at that time we have a wonderful feeling that we have made the Ferrari, and everybody is going to like it. But in a real essence, when it come across the field expert eye on that, then we get the loopholes, and then we get the weaknesses in it, and then we try to fill it. And very nicely you have mentioned the role of the, even the top journals, that sometimes our ideas are not original and not novel. So then they recommend to the sister journal that you can publish over there as well, because that is the very important point, that nowadays a lot of our students, they are receiving email for their paper, that would you like to transfer your paper from this journal to this one, and the publisher remains the same. So I believe that's the wonderful thing that you have already shared with our audience, that it happens because of the originality and novel work of the way you are writing the paper, because the literature is available on that. And your wonderful own experiences you shared, that since 2019 you are still waiting for your paper to be accepted. This is what actually we want to communicate to the our audience from around the globe, that you see the top researchers, even they face a lot of rejection, they face a lot of revision. So what you mentioned is very nice and very pertinent, that don't be discouraged with it. And even you have quoted yourself that one of your paper were 10 times rejected, but finally it was accepted. So it means that yes, everybody has to go through the process of learning, and through rejection we learn a lot, as you mentioned. I love the way you mentioned the we need to work with the different co-authors, particularly in your field, because we learn a lot. And at the beginner stage, I believe that's the really important thing, because we learn from our mentors and learn from the people who are doing research and who has the experience of publishing journals. So I think it was overall a wonderful package that you described each and everything in that. You have included your own personal strategies, personal experiences, and since you have a wonderful yes, Prof, can you hear us?
Yes,
Prof, can you hear us?
yes, I can hear you. Hello?
Yes, Prof, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Prof, are you able to listen to us?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, Prof. I think there is some internet disruption. That's why it was not. We were not able to listen to you. So, Prof,
Okay.
what I was saying that indeed you explained very well everything in a wonderful way. So
Thank you.
there are certain questions which needs your attention and recommendation, please. So should we start with the first question, please?
Sure, sure.
Yeah. So since Prof, you have wonderful citation and wonderful command on this topic, there is one question from the faculty member, and they want to ask that, Prof, please enlighten us. What are the some effective ways to market and promote our research that has been published in high impact journals? Since I have published long time, but we are not receiving the citation for it. So please give us any recommendation how to promote our work. Yes, please.
Yeah, so again, matter of citations depends on the how your topic is trendy. This is one point, like how your topic is trendy. Well, and in this way, it will receive a lot of citations through the search engines. If it is trendy enough and the topic of interest to many readers, it will receive citations. So, how trendy the topic is, this is very important. Second point is that promoting your work is to, once the paper is published, you can share it on ResearchGate, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter, so on the social media platforms. This is also one of the ways that you will, and not you are only the one who will promote this. All the co-authors, when you work with a group of co-authors, all are like reputed scholars. Each one of those have their own readers, so this is another point that the readers will follow the co-authors. But the most important part of citations is the, again, as I mentioned, how trendy the topic is and where it is published in which journal. So the topic should match the journal. Of course, these journals that uh, I don't expect that if you publish a trendy topic in high impact journal, relevant journal, it will not receive citations. This is impossible. Maybe it would not receive hundreds of citations, but it will receive citations for sure.
Uh, sounds for itself that first we need to target the good journal, reputed journal. So definitely it will receive the citation because a lot of readers will try to learn from the top journals. Because as you mentioned in your presentation and even your in answer that we must see the pattern and trends what are there, and if we go by the trend, so definitely we will receive the citation. Prof, there is one another question, and I think that's very pertinent as well. One of the another our beginner researchers want to ask that, Prof, since I'm the beginner researcher, I email to different professors in the field and ask them to please co-author me in the paper, but nobody agrees to be co-author with me. Please share the tips that how can I improve my manuscript and how can I convince the top professors to work with me? Yes, please. A very nice question.
Yeah, I at the beginning I also suffered from this issue. At the beginning of my journey, you are sending a lot of emails. Maybe you receive apologies, or no one will reply to your email. There are actually certain factors for this point. The main one is the that those authors are all busy all the time. They don't have time to review very, we can say, very early, very young research level. So they don't have time to waste it for reviewing this part of these type of manuscripts. They will consider it as a matter of wasting their time. Sometimes maybe the topic is much more. I mean, much more far from the accepted standards by those authors. So it's not. I mean, it's much more beyond the standards of those scholars. They will not waste their time to work on something that it would not be publishable in top journals. Maybe even, as I mentioned in the presentation, that because if you are sending email to top authors, those authors usually are also editors, are also reviewers in other journals. So they will look at your work as they are reviewing a manuscript in a journal. They find a lot of gaps and they will say, "Why do I waste my time for this?" So it depends. This depends on I mean, the person, him or herself, whether they accept or not. There's no specific tips for that one, but make sure that you follow the. If this is your first trial, follow the very good, or you can say a top journal. Take one good piece of work from this journal, a recent one, follow that one, take it as a guideline, as a template for you, and follow that template and try to contact those scholars. Maybe someone will reply, some you will receive apologies, and you might not receive any reply. Again, there is no specific answer for this question because it depends on the person himself.
So from your own example, that even it you suffered the same way and you tried by approaching the different, and then with the passage of time, you got the acceptance from the different scholar and you work with them. And I think this is the way that keep trying and keep convincing. And very nicely, you have given the suggestion that the top they come up with the one template from the top journal and they try to develop one article in that way, and then they can request any of the expert in the field to join them in the article. Thank you very much, Prof. Since we have time limitation, so we will take the two questions quickly. The two question is somehow related. So the first question is, Prof. Please enlighten us regarding the role of the cover letter. We usually get this question from our audience that what is the importance of the cover letter to the editor? And secondly, Prof, very important question they want to ask that they does it matter who is the corresponding author, or the profile of the author matters in the top tier journals? Yes, please.
Yeah, for your first question regarding the cover letter, in some journals it is important. If you are because in some journals they want to see whether, for example, you have relevant citations to those journals, so you can put that in your cover letter. Like my work is built on several work that is already published in the journal, and you can put some examples of that site. I mean references. Also, at the same time, you can put in your cover letter if there is like in your work is built on extending specific theory published by a journal. So you would convince the editor that your journal published this work and this work has limitations. This, I mean, the paper in your journal has limitations. We have improved or we bridge the limitations of this work by building our paper based on that one. So if there is something very close to the journal, this will be very important to the editor. It will show the editor that your work is relevant to the journal, and they will pass it for reviewers. In some journals, they don't care about the cover letter. It's just a matter of the formalities that my manuscript is you put your manuscript title. It's not submitted elsewhere for other publications. Yeah, these are it's a matter of formalities, not more than that. But it's again is for some journals it is important. If you have certain number of citations for that journal, try to mention that in your cover letter, because this will give the editor that the sense that your paper is relevant to the journal, and it will he or she will find some interest in your work. This is regarding your first question. Regarding your second question for the corresponding author, it matters in some way. If the corresponding author has already published in that journal, yeah, it will play a good role. If the corresponding author is well known for the editor of the journal, he has maybe a relation, or maybe he has published before in the journal several times. Yes, the corresponding author here plays a role. In in certain situations where none of the authors have published in this journal, they don't know the editor or the associate editors, then the corresponding author doesn't matter.
Very nice, Prof. Thank you very much. And I think that's the wonderful part that you have given insights regarding your own understanding of these wonderful, working with the wonderful journals. And really, if the author has already published there, so it means their correspondence record would be there. So it is already kind of established and recognized author in that journal. So definitely it might work in that way. But again, depends on the quality of your research work, as well as you mentioned in a wonderful image that there is a lot of people waiting there to actually see the way you have developed your manuscript, and you are there to go through the hectic process of revision. And Prof, that brings to the end of this session. And really, Prof, I enjoyed this wonderful session with you. It was very valuable, very useful in terms of wonderful strategies you have shared with us and with the audience around the globe. And the way you shared your experiences of the way you even have gone through a wonderful journey of rejection, revisions, and still you are facing the rejection and acceptance and so many things. And I love one of your another phrase that you must have so many articles in place in pipeline so that if you get the rejection, still you have certain papers on which you will be working through revisions, major revision, minor revision, and this is how things will work in our academic life. So thank you very much for such a wonderful session with us. And Prof, at the end of the session, we ask our each guest regarding their message to the world. So, what is your message to the world as a speaker, author, teacher, researcher, trainer, learner, professional, and educator? Yes, please.
Yeah, as I mentioned during my presentation, research is actually is a passion, and if you like it, you will take that as a fun for you. And if you have the wonderful surrounding research team around you, this will be another supporting factor for the success of your research journey. So I would say that reading is very important, and research group is very important to the success of your research journey. And I advise all researchers, specifically young researchers in their early research career, uh, to take these notes into consideration, plus other notes from other speakers who have managed to publish in good journals, because each of us has different experience. Maybe some of the thoughts that I mentioned would uh, maybe doesn't match the perspective of other speakers, and vice versa from other speakers as well. So taking different perspectives from different disciplines, it will add more value to our research. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you very much, Prof, for a nice message you have given to the world. Have a passion, and very nicely you have said about the reading. Have a reading, try to understand, go through the literature review, and very important another aspect which you have mentioned is your research team and your research group. Actually, we learn from each other and we grow together. So the way we are uh, collaborating with the different wonderful researchers, so definitely we will learn a lot. So even you have given wonderful message that they must consider your perspective and other perspective as well, as we have different experiences. So recognizing the other efforts and your own, I think that's the balanced approach and a very wonderful message you have given to the world. So thank you once again, and to the audience that please do follow our distinguished guest speaker through his research work, and you can email him for future learning and guidance. He's very generous and always ready to help the people. So that's all we have time for today, and thank you once again, Dr. Mustafa Al-Emran. And I would like to thank our audience who joined us. If you have any additional questions about information shared today, please email us or connect with me directly through his email or social media account. Thank you all for your support and liking our session. Stay tuned as many sessions are on the way. Please do not miss any session. And next session, take care of yourself. Bye bye.